Okay, I believe we are now good to start. So, hello and good morning, everybody. Let us commence with understanding, or maybe you can say taking a summary of Microsoft Enterprise Mobility and Security. Today, we are going to talk about how Microsoft 365 has been revolutionizing the way people interact with their devices and access the corporate data in the remote working environment, the way which has been today's new normal. So when we talk about enterprise mobility and security, we need to understand how EMS has turned out to be the most powerful suit of today's time to enable users to seamlessly work from where they are. So, guys, before we actually talk about what enterprise mobility and security is all about, we need to understand that today the security landscape of any IT environment has been broadly divided into three verticals. One is going to be the identity. When I say identity, I am talking about the users, the objects who are going to access the resources of my organization. It is going to be about the devices on which they will try to access these resources. And lastly, it will be about the applications and the data that they will try to access over that particular device. So if I want to simplify this even more, it is going to be who, where, and what. So security landscape in today's date has been broadly divided into these three fronts, and we need to make sure that our environment is secured at all these three levels. May that be within my infrastructure, may that be over a cloud, or may that be in a hybrid environment. So we precisely focus on identity. We focus on the devices where the accessibility is supposed to be granted, and we also focus on the applications on which the user should be allowed or denied a particular access. So basically, it is about transitioning your environment, but at the same time, it is also important to make sure that we are not compromising on our data, we are not compromising on our security, and we also need to make sure that we are keeping our environment safe from all sorts of vulnerabilities that might come up from a public network. So when we talk about the Microsoft EMS solution, it precisely focuses on all the three aspects, that is identity and access management, the devices and the information protection on those devices. And based on whatever the EMS suite will be able to capture, based on the users and the users activity and their interaction with the devices and stuff, every single activity and behavior will be recorded in the most powerful security suite, which is going to be the cloud and the SaaS based application security suite that is being provided as a part of the EMS product portfolio. The whole idea why enterprise mobility and security in today's IT world from Microsoft is considered to be the most powerful suite is because everything that you want to configure and have under EMS falls under one single umbrella. So it is like you pay for one single type of a license and you get each and every functionality that you might be looking for in a mobility environment, in a environment where you have fundamentals like BYOD, where you have trends where users can work from anywhere, you have remote working, you have users traveling, etc. Enterprise mobility and security offered by Microsoft 365 today is a suite powerful than none other competitors in the market. Yes, independently, So if you say independently, probably there might be a suit that might be provided by maybe VMware, or there might be a suit that might be provided by some other organization. They all are independent products. Nothing falls under one single umbrella. Whereas over here, everything falls under one single product suit. So you probably might land up coming with a question saying that, okay, if everything lands under one single suit, then how about my resources that might be running in AWS? How about my data that might be running or being accessed in the G suite? To your surprise, all of that can be controlled using the enterprise mobility suite. It can control your Windows devices, it can control your Android devices, it can manage your iOS devices, it can have security floating across Windows devices, laptops, that is the desktops and the laptops. You might have it across tablets, you can have it across mobile devices. At the same time, you can have the data and information being secured from maybe Dropbox, maybe Salesforce, maybe your Google Drive, and maybe another 46,000 plus such applications which are renowned, which are used across the IT industry, which are available to most of the customers being using it in their the customers having it implemented in their IT infrastructure, and a lot more. So EMS gets you everything under one single suite, but not limiting it to only Microsoft based products. It also extends its functionality to non Microsoft products as well. When we talk about enterprise mobility and security, the first thing that happens is the actual control that you might want to implement, and that is going to come through some centralized management solution, which is your Azure Active Directory. So, whether you are implementing device management, whether you are implementing security, whether you are implementing identity management, or whether you are implementing information protection, everything comes through the Azure Active Directory platform. And to your surprise, Azure Active Directory has got more than 44 million monthly active users, and at the same time, more than 1.3 million active applications, which are third party minded, not Microsoft applications, which are growing by 113% by every passing year. This statistical data that we are talking about over here is pertaining, guys, again, to third party applications and not limiting it to Microsoft based applications only. Managed mobile productivity with EMS. What does this mean? With EMS, you probably want to give the user a choice of devices across which he would want to access his resources. You want to give access to those resources as easily as possible. You want to give the users access to probably reset their passwords on their own, or maybe have their multi-factor authentication set up on their own, or you probably want the user to manage his own identity in the organization on his own without the admin's interaction. And at the same time, you also want the user to use familiar apps like your Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or maybe accessing data over SharePoint, or maybe doing meetings over Teams, or maybe using To Do or sticky notes, or whatever the day to day applications might be, you know. So if I want to have these productivity solutions in place, I also need to make sure that my user, my device, and the applications where the data is going to be accessed are totally under my corporate security control. I need to define conditional access policies to make sure that whatever, however, needs to be accessed should have some or the other conditions to be defined. For example, if you are within the organization and trying to access some file or data, it should be opened without any kind of a credential requirement. Maybe if you're trying to access the same information outside your organization, then it should probably ask you for a multi-factor authentication. But maybe you're trying to access it outside the country, then the data access should not be allowed. So these kind of conditional access policies is also what we need to set. Again, one of the most powerful solution and the most you can say simplified solution that you have for defining the access of your data, of your devices, of your applications across all platforms. Lastly, you need to define the protection policies after accessing that file. So probably you need to define over here fundamentals like information protection, which makes sure that, okay, if the mail has been sent, it cannot be forwarded. If the document has been shared, it cannot be edited, something like that. All these aspects are completely under. When we come to this entire solution, it makes things really beautiful to access, because when you have the suit designed completely, when you have the suit ready in place completely, the user will only have a single username and password to access the resources across any kind of a device from anywhere, across any operating system platform, across any application provider or service provider, not limiting him only to access things on Microsoft platform. Enterprise mobility and security today that we have lets you overcome the mobile productivity challenge, which we just had a glimpse of. So my user today wants to work easily from any device, access the familiar apps, collaborate and share with colleagues, and have the data accessed seamlessly. At the same time, the corporate wants to secure the data, manage the company resources, and at the same time have a complete insight as to what is happening and on the end user front. And all of this can be controlled and taken care of by the M365 suite. So Microsoft 365 precisely is, you can say, a collaboration of the independent products that were sold earlier. So when I say independent products, I'm talking over here about your Office 365 suite, your Windows 10 as a license, Microsoft Intune for device management, and the security suite. So M365 altogether comes with Office 365, Windows 10, device management and application management, and device and application level security. We discussed the mobile landscape, wherein we will have to protect who, where, and what. So when I talk about deploying the complete security landscape, I will have to even consider that this will be for three different types of people. It will be for my employees, it will be for my business partners, and it will also be for my end customers. So the policies that I might set for my employees might be secure while they are outside, might be less secure while they are inside the organization. For my business partners, the information shared will be limited and the security that would be implemented would be considerably high. When it comes to customers, only relevant data will be shared, yet the security level will be extremely high. When we talk about an example of how EMS secures your environment, let us talk over here about an email that probably arrives in your inbox. There will be four layers at which the security will be implemented. The first layer will be the identity. Who is the sender? Who is the recipient? The second one will be the device, whether it is a corporate device or whether it is a completely end user based device. Which application is the user trying to access the mail into? Maybe you're trying to configure the emails in the native iOS mail application or the Android mail application, which is not permitted. You probably compulsorily need Outlook for accessing the corporate resources. And lastly, the data which you're trying to access, whether it is allowed on that type of a device, whether it is allowed to that type of an identity or not. So all of these are the security protocols that you can put in place for your users using the Microsoft suite. As I said, conditional access, each time a device tries to access, it will do a verification. If the device is not compliant, the user won't be granted an access. But if the device is compliant, then the policies will be pushed. The device will be considered as healthy. It will be onboarded in your environment and the user will be allowed to access the data. Mobile application management. See, in today's date, users are, I can say that users most freely access a device which is a mobile device. I can still have probably a laptop or a desktop under compliance. I can have a laptop or a desktop under my corporate control. I can have my my iPad or my iPad or a tablet limiting my users from accessing a particular thing. But mobiles are something which my users have completely a liberal access to. So when I will try to bring their mobile devices also into the corporate compliance, it might create a noise amongst the users. It might create a bad experience. A user might have probably got feedback saying that, okay, this is something which I don't want. So practically speaking, users might be afraid of their confidential data, their personal data being seen by the corporate environment. They might be skeptical of onboarding those devices in the environment. They might not want those level of restrictions to be imposed on the mobile device. In that case, what we can think of implementing is mobile application management. So when I say mobile application management, what I mean over here is using this particular mobile application management, I can only control those applications where my corporate data is lying. So maybe on an end user device, the moment I push a mobile application management component, it will identify which of the applications are corporate applications and which of the applications are personal applications. It will then categorize the corporate applications, bring them together, and start pushing the security profile over these applications only. Mind it, while this particular thing is being pushed, none of the user's data is going to be accessed. None of the user's data can be seen. Nothing of the user's personal data is what the company can manage. Even while performing a kind of a wipe, it will only be the wipe on the corporate applications and nothing to do with the personal data. And at the same time, whenever user will onboard his device, they will get a notification saying that we do not have an access to your personal information. We do not have access to your personal data. So while these kind of policies can be implemented, it is an excellent functionality to know that a Word application or an Excel application itself would be intelligent enough to identify whether the file that is being accessed is a personal file or whether it is a corporate data. If it is a personal file, it can go across all the personal applications across the entire device anywhere. If it is a corporate file which will have the corporate thumbprint, in that case, that file cannot be shared anywhere apart from those corporate applications. Consider an example wherein I send you an email which has got an Excel sheet attached to it. You probably try to download this particular Excel sheet and you try to paste it maybe on your memory card or on your personal storage or maybe on your iCloud storage or whatever it is. You will be straight denied. It will not give you an access to that. You probably open the Excel sheet and you try to paste the data in Word, and then you try to save the Word in the personal OneDrive. That is also something which will not be permitted. Lastly, you try to save it on the corporate OneDrive and the file would be saved. This mechanism makes sure that none of your data accessed by the user can go outside the managed applications. They will have all the management components in place. They will have all the security protocols in place. Now, once we have this particular mobile application management component in place, we will also manage the access to applications for those particular users. They can be applications across varied platforms. As I said, you have more than 40,000 plus applications. They can be line of business applications. What I mean here is applications which have been built and developed in-house inside your organization itself for your custom usage. Or they can also be your Microsoft applications, which nowadays you use using your TS Web or remote desktop services, which can now be deployed in your environment using your Microsoft Azure application services. Just 1 minute, guys, just 1 minute, please. Yes, sorry. So we can access these applications from different platforms from the custom in-house built applications list, or they can also be my Microsoft platform based applications. Identity driven security, guys, password today is something which Microsoft expects you to leave behind and set everything based on the modern authentication methods, like maybe your multi-factor authentication, maybe having a code coming up on your phone and you trying to authenticate over it, or maybe biometric authentication, iris scanner or your fingerprint or whatever it is, making your device, making your application much more secure as compared to the passwords. Detect threats. So when I say detect threats here, it based on all the kind of application and information that you access, based on your behavior across the device, which is continuously being monitored. The Microsoft 365 suite is going to implement the security protocols in such a way that your device is secured from the latest released vulnerability as well. There are multiple layers of security. So one comes with your Active Directory, that is at the user level, which to a certain extent is even at your device level. Intune, which is coming again at the device level. And lastly, your complete suite which is going to protect all the information with rights management. So when all of these aspects are going to come together, may that be your device management with Intune, application management with Intune, user management, or the information protection using rights management, all this when comes together, they form your enterprise mobility and security suite. In today's date, it was, I mean, we can say that it was last year, 2019, when the M365 suite started getting more and more mature in the UAE market. But today, we can say that we have a exponentially large number of customers who have started adopting the 365 suite readily, and Microsoft has been continuously changing, improvising, bringing new features in place, and making customers have the complete usability of the entire suite, and making sure that all the user expectations or the organization and customers expectations are met when it comes to implementing this in their environment. So if we talk about the things that were in 2019 last year, if we talk about the second half itself of this year, which has just begun, there are massive changes and improvisations that have brought a hell lot of stability in things that you do across the enterprise mobility and security suite. Your Windows devices have something which is called as Windows Hello for Business in place. So Windows Hello for Business is something which can again be forced by your organization, and this particular component is going to unify the experience of accessibility across all the devices. So basically, if I'm trying to access a mobile device today, we access it using a Face ID or maybe using my Touch ID or something of that sort. So implementing Windows Hello for Business is again going to give me that extensibility of having those things on my laptop and desktop, making sure that it unifies my experience, whether I'm on the mobile device or on my laptop or a desktop. My experience of accessing my resources is going to remain completely the same. Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. Before jumping onto the depth of this, I would say that people have a myth. There is a lot of myth, which has been come up because of the name, that is Windows Defender. People think that it is a notion that Windows Defender is something which is a premature product which has been offered by Windows 10 by default, and it is something which is again being provided over here as a part of the EMS suite. No, it is not the case. When I talk about Windows Defender ATP, it is a suite as large as maybe your Symantec Endpoint Protection Manager, or your Kaspersky suite, or maybe your Deep Security, or maybe any kind of another antivirus, anti-malware suite that you will implement in your enterprise. Windows Defender ATP today stands amongst the top 3 security endpoint security suites that are available in the market, with all sorts of extensive management and extensive device controlling and safeguarding features being in place, making sure that again it is leveraging the customers to use this and put this particular thing in place, so that you don't have to rely on any other suite to have your endpoints secured and controlled. The best part of Windows Defender ATP is that the updates, the security, the latest features or the latest vulnerability knowing factors, or the latest understanding of the things that are being rolled out by the hackers, is all what is being updated on your Windows Defender ATP by the Microsoft suite itself. So there is nothing over here which we need to control manually. This is going to be completely taken care of by the backend of the Microsoft cloud itself. Reason being, when we talk about Defender ATP, since it is a suite which is being offered through the cloud, what happens is each time there is any kind of a vulnerability assessment or anything that runs in the Microsoft Cloud Engine, which is a continuous process, they try to evaluate and identify all sorts of security breaches or attacks happening on every end customer's cloud environment. So whatever is being detected, any kind of an anomaly which is being detected, will be considered as a vulnerability if in case it is, and based on the AI model which it uses in the backend, it is going to push this as an update to block that particular anomaly on all the end customers tenant, making sure that no customer has its security compromised. So when we talk about the entire security suite, there are securities that are offered by Microsoft at three layers. One is going to be at the Office 365 layer, which is your Office 365 ATP. Another one is offered at your endpoint level, which is the Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. Third one is something which is going to be at the Azure level, which is the Azure Advanced Threat Protection. So inside your enterprise mobility and security, you have one suite for uh, uh, device and application management, which has again two categories: mobile device management and mobile application management. And you have a complete other suite, which is called as the Advanced Threat Protection suite, which again has three products: Office 365 ATP, Windows Defender ATP, and Azure ATP. While implementing this particular suite, this is something which is the most loved product. I personally love it the most. That is Microsoft Cloud Application Security. I have seen this particular suite, or Microsoft has given this particular suite, giving insights about your devices and users like none other. Like you can have a complete access to identify the behavior of the user, to trace how, when, what is being accessed, from where it is being accessed, meaning which device, which Windows or Linux operating system, which browser, which location, which public IP address, which service provider. All of this is what you can see inside the Cloud Application Security suite. Based on the report that you generate, you can just automate a policy saying that if an event like this is traced further, in that case, perform a so and so action. So you can actually control um, that particular definition of the report that you have made. And then lastly, you can have a view of threat detection to identify how many times has that particular policy been put in place, or how many times the accessibility has been complied by that particular user or the device. So cloud application security, okay, but cloud application security has all these features to offer at an E3 and an E5 level. E5 suite, I mean, cloud application security in the E5 suite is the most advanced and the most powerful one. But when it comes to the others, it is a little, you can say, limited in terms of the number of applications and the kind of functionalities that it can give. So Microsoft Cloud Application Security, as I said, is one of my favorite products because it gives you an insight of whatever single activity is happening. Like even if a user logs into the portal, it will say that the user logged in. If the user is trying to start a virtual machine or stop a virtual machine in Azure or AWS or even my GCP, it will give me an update of the same. So it's like every single activity. He shares a file, I get an update. He deletes a file, I get an update. He deletes a file from the bin, I get an update. So all of the information, every single activity happening on your tenant, every single activity happening in your IT infrastructure is something that you can track using your cloud application security. Not only limited to the application layer or to a particular hybrid cloud layer, you can even import logs over here from other SIM products. You can import logs over here from your from your Palo Alto level. You can import logs from your Fortinet firewall. You can import logs from Cisco devices and a lot more. So it's pretty versatile, and one single place where you can put all of the things in place, and you can have a complete identification and management of the resources that are being accessed across your environment. It comes in two different flavors, as I said, the Office 365 CAS and Microsoft 365 CAS. Office 365 CAS is limited with certain number of applications, but still pretty powerful. You cannot have a robust control over it the way you have in E5, but yes, it is still a suite worth using. And the one that you have in your Microsoft 365 is something which can be like limitless. It can give you accessibility, it can give you resource visibility, it can give you components to any extremes that you wish to have. Guys, this was a short summary on the enterprise suite that we have, which is coming up as a part of your 365 solution. This can be one major reason why you would want to switch your customers from an Office 365 license to an M365, though now everything from Office has moved to M. But advancing to a particular level in M365 can give you an exposure to all these features that you would want to access. Moreover, I mean, might land up with a question saying that, oh, the license cost for this particular suit is something which is too high. Like, this is something which is going beyond the budget. When you see the kind of features and the functionalities that the suit has got to offer, you are not paying more over here. You are probably getting the complete ROI of what when you have the complete suite in place. When you actually go and calculate the cost of the independent solutions, maybe an antivirus by Symantec, maybe AirWatch by VMware, or maybe another security protocol suite in place, another SIM solution in place, another monitoring solution in place. When you have a total calculation of the cost on the whole, it will become easier for you to identify and to understand that what you are paying for EMS is a cost which is really worth the money, because it gives you a complete solution under one single license. Also, it is not a solution which is probably having limitations or things which are not going to suit or match your requirements. It is definitely something which is going to have a complete productive, you can say, solution in place. It is a suite which is going to have security, monitoring, and all the aspects that you might want in a mobile environment to be in place. So we can say that enterprise mobility and security today is something which is actually going to facilitate, and at the same time it is going to help your organization survive the most in the most safest way, and it is going to give you a more better approach to adapting to the modern workplace. So this was it from my side, guys. Let us have a few questions, and let me have those questions answered, if at all there are any, and post that probably we might be good to control, I mean, conclude this particular session, and later on if there is anything also we can connect and we can have questions over it.
All right. Thanks, Ronak. Thank you for the session. Guys, if you have any more questions, you can reach out to Ronak. Yeah? And the presentation as well as the deck will be shared to you in a separate email. Yeah? Thank you so much, Ronak, and thank you guys